Hey, here we are, ladies and gents, and everyone in between, and anyone who falls outside of that spectrum. Whoever you are, welcome. Today we're going to be doing some painting. Maybe a little carving, but mostly painting. On XPS foam, making ruins. And it's going to be a blast. I love this part because you take something that looks like garbage, like this, you know, and then you're like, I'm gonna make this not garbage. And you do a thing and it becomes not garbage. It's the best. One quick sec. Okay. I just needed to double check and confirm. This is only the second time I've done this restreaming thing, so I wanted to make sure that I'm actually live and talking to you guys. And now I'm remembering, right, I need to actually watch Twitch to see your comments, the chat. So let me get on that. Hold on. I gotta watch a commercial. I'll be there in a second. All right, and unsurprisingly to most people, oh, there we go. Working in Mod Podge for the base coat. Mod Podge mixed with black. Black almost anything. I am on the internet. Thank you for letting me know that. Acta Angel Bane. Cool. So, yeah. I'm basically... These are all, like, interesting little constituent parts of a ridiculous thing that I'm working on. Show you some context over here. We've got a dice tower that is going to literally be 5 feet tall. And that is the very basic, you know, it's essentially a box at this point, right? But you have to imagine it with all these cool elements, embellishing it in various places. And that's kind of what I'm working on now. I've got these sort of side arches that are going to come out in some cool way. And the dice are going to be, you're going to put them on a, what would this thing be called? I'll call it an arch, a bridge arch, I don't know. You're going to put your dice, it's going to roll down into the tower, right? You'll see it go down through these little windows. They'll have bars over them so the dice can't pop out. But where the dice enter on the side, I wanted to give it like a nice little decorative opening. So it's going to be this is going to slot in like so. And right now it's terrible and ugly, and we're going to make it not terrible and ugly. So, to do that, the first step is just bring it all together with some black Mod Podge. For those of you who are wondering, this little decorative element that you can see there is a, oh nice, I like how it's like focus and then, not focus. Let's see if I do this. The wiles of my camera are inscrutable even after years. This is basically a takeout container lid for like little, they're not called toppings, condiments, like a condiment takeout lid. You know, it'll be for, are these regular dice to you? I don't know. I mean, to the common everyday layperson, they would consider these extravagant dice. I think they're pretty normal dice. It's going to be interesting to make sure that they don't shoot 5 feet into the air after they hit the bottom. And it's not a straight plunge, by the way. There are convolutions inside. They have to take a bit of a circuitous route to get down. You've been on here forever, Bug Lips, and no Podge. Does that imply that you have plenty of mod, but just no Podge? I definitely want to get these nice and protected because we're going to be having dice bouncing on these. Oh, I should point out actually, this, because this is just a plastic lid type thing, right? So it's really flexible and weak, but I backed it up with lightweight spackling mixed with some of the Mod Podge, and that gives a really strong but also flexible and bouncy surface property to it. So it's perfect for deflecting dice. He's a mod. Okay, you haven't promoted the mod to Podge yet. And that is why I wear gloves during this process. I'm not a fan of cleaning Mod Podge out of my fingernails. Some people like that sort of thing. I'm not into it. While this is not the most exciting process, it is a fairly fast process, fortunately. We're going to get to some more exciting painting here in a moment. If painting can ever be described as exciting. I mean, I think it is, but some people like watching grass grow and paint dry. Who am I to judge? Okay, so you will never be able to see up into here because it's sitting like this, and there's a funnel pulling your dice down through there. So I'm not terribly concerned with making sure that you can't see brush strokes and that sort of thing like I am with normal surfaces. Just on this sort of facing thingy thing here. So that's when I use makeup dibby dabber, I believe is the technical term they use in the professional makeup industry. And I just dibby dab all that away. So yeah, that should look really nice when it's dry brushed. It'll bring out all those little peaks and edges. It's gonna be nice. Okay, we're gonna set this aside. Because I have this guy ready for our first scrub. Where did I hide the lid for myself? There it is. You're saying you're gonna get used to me? I'm just gonna become just a mundane part of your everyday life? I don't know if that's acceptable. Quindy Laru knows what's up. That's right. You never want to get used to someone. Hey, Masked Penguin. You're going to be basing your rock. Nice. I am rocking a base. This is almost an entablature, technically. It just needs pillars underneath it, and then it would be an entablature. As it is, it's just kind of a shelf, I guess. Okay, so the first coat that I do, you know, on my way to getting a surface that's kind of like this, the first thing I do is sort of a 60 to 70% gray, and I consider dry brushing to be on a spectrum. It's not a binary thing where you're either dry brushing or painting. So I kind of call this step the scrub brushing, or the wait, I came up with a name last night. What was it? It's like, it's not dry brushing, it's not wet brushing. What's between wet and dry? That was the logic by which I came up with the name, and I already forgot what it was. Whatever that word, that really clever word I came up with, that's what this part is. Damp brushing, clammy brushing. Let's see, moist brushing. But I'm actually trying to cover, I'd say, 95% of the surface with this gray, because my wash is going to go in and re-establish all the little details that I'm kind of wiping away, visually wiping away, not literally wiping away. But this coat helps me so that when I add my color variation coat, everything works together well. Like, what doesn't work well for me is to dry brush on a gray like this, you know, like that, right? Where you're dry brushing and you try to leave a lot of that black in there. Let's see if we can focus a little better, can we? Yeah. To dry brush a little bit like that, and then you add a tone, you know, you make some of the bricks bluer and redder, etc. That black kind of blasts away the kind of differentiation that you get if it starts with a fairly homogeneous gray coat. Thank you for all those links, Darth Abacus Bot. Pseudo brushing, pseudo dry brushing. Does pseudo not kind of carry with it the implication, kind of the premise that it's not the real thing, like it's a fake version of a thing? Or am I reading too much into that word? I guess there are animal species that have pseudo in their name, like their Latin name or whatever. Are there pseudopods? Is that a thing where it's like they kind of have feet? You could consider these little dingle dangles feet, and so they're pseudopods. Am I remembering my biology correctly? I just really have to push the moist brushing agenda, huh? Teach it to the kids in school. You're big on pseudopods around there, Bug Lips? Give me an example of a pseudopod. Like, that word triggers something in my brain, but it doesn't trigger a specific image of any specific animal. So help me out here. What's an example of a pseudopod? Yeah, I keep splattering up onto my nose and lips, and that's fun. It's really great having paint on your nose and lips. That's right. You know you're moist brushing properly when you're constantly rubbing paint off of your face. It's gonna become the next craze in the vein of dabbing. All these crazy kids and their moist brushing and face wiping. A pseudopod is an appendage that can morph. Okay. So it could be like a flagella that can turn into a defense or an offense mechanism, as well as be a locomotor device. Are octopuses? Do they have pseudopods? Do their arms count as a pseudopod? Is it only on the microscopic level that pseudopods are a thing? Yeah, so this, I got these jugs of white and black last week, and was trying to custom mix 2 different grays into them, and after I got the jugs and started getting the paint out is when I realized all my funnels had disappeared. And so it just became this absolute disaster stream of me getting paint everywhere, trying to and this, on top of it, this paint is like thicker than, I don't know, how thick is that? It's that thick. So it's just a nightmare to transfer bottles and mix and stuff. But the reason it is that way, like I seldom have worked with this volume of paint, and that's because I'm building this room-sized diorama, right? That's why I was like, well, I have to make this 5-foot tall pillar. I might as well turn it into a dice tower. And yeah, I just like I want to keep the tones consistent throughout the entire arena. So I was like, well, I should just mix up all the paint that I'm going to need for the whole project and just have it on hand. And of course, when you do that, there's some magical formula that takes place in the universe that makes sure that you get exactly 90% of the paint that you're going to need. No matter how much you get, it's going to be exactly 90% of what you need. And then you're going to be like stressing out for that last 10%, trying to recreate exactly what you had for the first 90%. And you'll always get it a little bit wrong. I mean, Wiki, I don't make the rules. I don't even enforce the rules. I just report on them. Molasses. Thick. Yes. Ooh, okay, let's look at these options here. Slather brushing, damp brushing, splatter brushing, splash brushing, white brushing, slop brushing, fast brushing. Yeah, I appreciate it. I feel like whatever I came up with, the fact that we have not been able to recreate it yet probably means that it wasn't that great to begin with. I really like a lot of these options though. I like splatter brushing. I also like slop brushing. I don't know why. It's like you're feeding the pigs. Yeah, do you like my like super pro palette over here? It's 4 paper towels on some butcher paper. Done. Now we need a good word for a wet palette that's not actually wet. That's probably good as a damp palette, but it needs a word that evokes its temporality as well, right? Like, it's fast becoming a dry palette, but it started once as wet. It's like a wet palette created by someone who didn't have the forethought or the willpower to carry through the entire idea. It's like a semi-arid palette. If you want to go with like a Köppen classification scheme, semi-arid. And I'm happy for there to be, you know, a variety of shades in here. It does not need to be 100% homogeneous. Just like, I don't know, 70% homogeneous. Flawed palette, good. Summer shower palette, I like it. It's not a desert palette. It doesn't get that dry. Evaporative palette, oh, I like that. That definitely speaks to its evolving nature. Frugal brushing. That speaks to the economic advantage of doing things this way. Okay, so now here's the nice thing is that I have 3 of these, and I frugal brushed 2 of them already. So we're ready to go right into our paint mixing for our color tone variations. And so I've got 4 just bottles that I filled with my thick sludge coat of paint, and I just kind of picked these out. You know, these are probably 18 years old, gotten from Michael's for 50 cents at some point in the distant past. All they have to do is give a slight variation to the gray and job complete, so they do not need to be super pro. Let's see, I have a little, there we go. This is one of those things where doing ruins is like the very best learning process for XPS foam, because the painting, the carving, even the composition, you have so much flexibility to mess things up and be inconsistent and learn things, you know, as opposed to doing a, you know, currently in use, you know, freshly built palace or something like that, you know. Paste palette. That's good. Sludge coating. Haha. That's really good. That is so good. I need to write it down. Hold on. Here we go. Sludge. Wait, DG. I don't know how to spell. Okay. This way I can remember it. Apparently that's what language and writing is good for. So I've been told. You can remember things. So in the past I've experimented with using these colors straight on the tile. But I find that I pretty much have to like sludge brush and dry brush and weather again afterwards because they just stand out too much. They're too vibrant. So I've had more luck starting with the, you know, again, that's the beauty of mixing a giant jug of something that you're going to use for the entire project at the beginning, is you have a base to work off of. Oh, sludge coating and sludge brushing are both, I'm going to say sludge brushing / coating. These hexagonal boys are made from, I originally sculpted them in epoxy sculpt and then made a mold out of that and cast it in a variety of substances. Resin, freeform air, kind of whatever I had laying around. Alright, let's get that in comparison. So it's starting to take on a bit of a bluish cast, but it's still not quite enough to make me satisfied with its differential. Also, it should be noted, I am the opposite of a mixologist. I'm terrible with color. I just flail at it until I get something that I'm not crying about. You know, when the tears stop flowing, that's when I'm like, okay, I did it. Color complete. Thanks, Bug Lips. Yeah, it was my best attempt at recreating what I saw in the original footage from the arena in Shadow of the Colossus. I don't know if I have the specific reference I was going off of here, but there's a variety of places along the pillar. Yeah, it's kind of low res, so it's really hard to make out, but it was kind of this repeating circular motif. Yeah, you can't see that at all. Trust me, trust me. It was my best attempt to take blurry PlayStation 2, actually I guess it was PlayStation 3 at the time, they up-resed it, graphics, and like, did my best, and forgot the rest. Another motif, actually, that reminds me, I need to be attaching these things. Where did I put them? Hid them from myself. Oh man, I really need these now. Hold on. There they are. I just built this new foam cutter, and by built I mean I got it on sale at Michael's and put together this nice foam cutting table I'm very excited about using, but doing so got in the way of knowing where anything is right now. But here we go. These are a variety of bits and bobs that I have cast, sculpted while I was sculpting the Colossus. So this piece right here is actually like I ended up doing a couple attempts trying to get this part of his muzzle figured out, this like intricate pattern, and I was able to use it in a couple different places, you know, casting it and then using it around in different areas of his face. And so, you know, I ended up having the mold anyway, so I made a bunch of these, and I figure I might as well decorate his surroundings with them, right? So I'm gonna put these at kind of the threshold of these. I'm just gonna call them entablatures because I feel like really smart when I use that word. So let's get another context view here. All right, this is gonna sit like this. This is gonna be, you know, kind of inset like so. And then you can see the dice rolling in there. And then I wanted to carve a little chunk out to put this little thing right there. Is the best place I could find to reuse these. Since I have them anyway, I was like, where should I put them? Should I put them above the door? But that gets like, I don't know, I felt like that looked a little weird from a just an overall design perspective. The finished crying palette. Yeah, that works. Okay, so in theory, putting it like literally, so this is the middle block. My only concern is that in case I need to shift this slightly back or forth on the surface of the tower, then, and this is like embedded in the tower, then I could end up with like a weird thing where it's like one way or the other. Hey, Just Skynet. Jose Defensi, thank you so much for that raid. Appreciate it. Welcome to Reaper Miniatures. My name is Josh Foreman. I am a new-ish host on the show, and my deal is we're making foam ruins and such for, you know, wargaming, dioramas, minis in general. And right now I'm working on a 5-foot-tall dice tower. And it's a little ridiculous. Why would you do that, you ask? It's a very complicated answer. Okay, let's get back to our paint mixing. So we've got, now I think this is getting more like slate blue. I don't see a difference between these two yet. So I'm just gonna keep dumping that in. I think this this is like a turquoise, is it? Teal, a Tuscan teal, as the kids say. And I think it's like, it's kind of desaturated to begin with, so when you mix it in with gray, you probably have to put in more than with, say, this crazy bright yellow, right? Lemon chiffon. Sounds delicious. Yeah, well, this is why I made it very clear too. I took pains to note I am not a mixologist. Ew, that was a gross, like, snot strand of blue in there. Okay. Whatever this ends up, I'm going to call this good. Because the level of, like, subtlety of how actually different the color tone is just a matter of taste and preference. And I'm totally cool with the blue being fairly subtle. Yeah, like I said, this is old paint. Perfect for a sludge coat. Exactly. Alright, next color. Let's do a brown. Yep, kids on their TikToks, they're all like, lemon chiffon, Tuscan teal. I think that's literally all TikTok is kids saying lemon chiffon and Tuscan teal. Brown. You know, they're all about the folk art and the apple barrel on the TikToks. They don't care about quality paints. Kids these days, I tell ya. Oh, wow. That's chunkalicious right there. And I'm going for it. I'm here for it. Get in there, you chunks. Part of getting back to that whole like advantage of making ruins is that, you know, you want weird discrepancies to happen. You want the blocks to stick out too far, or poke in, or be broken in weird ways. And so I just embrace that chaos, including in the painting process. So like if I get some brown chunks in there, oh man, please quote me on that. If I get brown chunks all over, I'm totally happy with that. Regular goopy and extra goop. And at some point, poopy and extra poop. Yeah, so I'm starting to figure out here that I think when I did this process before, I was doing a much lighter gray, and so it was accepting the colors easier, but it looks like I need to do like almost 50% color to 50% gray. Man, that was appetizing right there. We are hardcore sludge painting right now. Sludge metal is a thing, right? So as far as like the musical genre, so sludge painting should go right along with it. Yes, this is turning into chunk brushing. What's that? Yeah, I could still use even more. And really, I have nothing to fear, because if I go overboard on the tinting here, I just add more of my base gray and I'm set, right? Okay, I'm gonna try this unholy coupling right here. The most appetizing stream going on. This is the 2 paints 1 cup method of paint transference. I hope you appreciate it. That's right. For the love of God, do not engage in this unholy union without a priest on the premises and holy water. At least 1 or 2 paladins, just in case you summon something truly terrifying on accident. Oh god, oh wait, is the jar of peanut butter stream literally just a still jar of peanut butter? I was worried you were referring to something far more nefarious. Okay. So I don't even think I need to label these. I've got enough of the tinting color sort of like against the sides that I can reference that pretty easily. I'm actually thinking for these lighter colors, what I am going to do is just dump about half my load here. So very bright, like I purposely chose this like ridiculously light color so that, you know, it's just a matter of using less paint in the mix. Nothing like 15-year-old Americana brand paints. Let me tell you guys, it gives all other fine paints a run for their money. Glad to hear the electroshock worked for you. I only refer to unfamily-friendly things obliquely. You know, kind of Shrek style. My wife asked me the other day, I have no idea how this came up. She was like, why is his name Lord Farquaad? Like, what a weird name. Farquaad. What, you know. I had to sit her down and have the talk. Shrek was created by people who left Disney in a huff. They were very unhappy about Disney and Disneyland and Michael Eisner, and they wanted to lampoon the whole Disney experience, and they wanted to call the bad guy what they felt about Michael Eisner but couldn't say literally in a kid's movie. Oh my god, look at that. Yes! Yes, that's what I was hoping for on this stream. That is awesome. This is the artist experience happening right now. All right, I think we're done. I can't top this. This is as good as it gets, folks. I'm just kidding. We're not done. We're not done. Mods, don't take me off the air. I haven't said all I need to say to the world. Cut the feed! I can see the mods at Reaper right now. It's like those newsroom scenes where you've got all the guys at the like giant bank of consoles. There's like 30 people there for some reason, and the producer's running in. Cut the feed! Cut the feed! I assume that's what's happening over there. Hey, Yagarthor. We are doing it live. Set up. Oh no, are we gonna have to escalate like comic book movies? Every sequel just has to get, the stakes have to go higher and higher every time, and there has to be more and more villains. In this case, the villain is 15-year-old craft paint, but I can imagine adding fire to that. Sure, I've got plenty of hot wire foam tools back there that I could accidentally leave on. This is also the worst tool to do this with. Let's try this. Let's try this brown stick. This is the very best paint mixing stream I could possibly imagine. I have to say, it's very on brand for me. Garthor and Indivies can attest to this. They're regulars on my other stream, and yeah, this is par for the course, you guys. This is the quality you pay for. Fingers? I can't use my fingers. They'll get messy. Visual ASMR. I mean, this whole scene right here, you can't tell me this is art. I declare this an NFT. If anyone takes a screenshot of this, it belongs to me. Copyright, trademark, Joshua Foreman Industries Incorporated. And yeah, even though I dumped out half of the gray, it's still not getting to where I really desire it to be. All right, we're going full scooper pooper here. By the way, this little section, this process of just like adding a couple colors to 4 different vials of gray, you know, in my brain parts, I was thinking, yeah, this will take like 5 minutes of the stream, and then we'll move on to the fun part of like, you know, touching up bricks and stuff. But no, art, you know, art, how that works. Art is like, nope, thou hast chosen poorly. You sent a screenshot to my Discord. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now this one, it is a little harder to see, so I'm just going to call this yeller. And the paint was very old, so it is now old yeller. What do we do next? This like pale yellow. Okay, so I'm going to dump yet more of this gray before I try this pale yellow. Chunky. Ooh, bubbly chunky. Yes, keep going. Oh, nice little spatter effect. I think I even got it on the mini that I started painting the other night. Let's see, does he... Like, I wouldn't be upset if he got some yellow spatters on him, but, yeah, I don't know. Bubbly chunky sludge scoop a day. Yes, exactly. Come on. Get out of there, booger. Alright, fine. You can stay. The booger stays, everyone. Oh, wrong lid. Heck yeah, it's Mumlac. I'm gonna give Mumlac the most original color scheme I could think of. It's actually gonna be almost nothing like what you see now. This is a weird base coat layer that I'm doing, but I have ideas. Granted, I've only ever painted my own sculptures. I've never painted minis before. So like, I don't know, it's forcing my brain into weird different things, and I just want to experiment like crazy. So we'll see how it ends up. These were the first guys that I tested out this oil painting technique on, and you know, they're not done by any means. High focus. But yeah, I've got interesting ideas. Let's just say they're interesting, okay? To spare my feelings, we'll call them interesting. Oh man, I have a feeling this is gonna like blow back into my face. All right, back to the unholy union. Aw, thank you, Garthor. Thanks, Bug Lips. Yeah, the smear just keeps... It's the gift that keeps on giving. It's becoming a more and more valuable NFT every moment. Alright, that is just clearly not a thing, so... We'll call it for this, and this was our fourth and final color hue variation. Yay, we get to start doing art again. I know mixing paint should be an art, but and it truly is an art for those who understand what the heck they're doing. That is how they refill the condiments at IHOP. Yes, I agree. I think it's in the employee handbook. There's probably a video from 1982 describing how to do it exactly this way. Now, unfortunately, I do have to clean this up a little bit. You run an IHOP? Lucky. Okay. Colors. Now we have our variants. Let's put these back. You know, another thing that I forgot I was going to do. I'm trying to think if I should do it at this point. Yeah, why not? So I can do my color variations, but I also like to do surface smoothness variations as well. You can see like these cast bits are smoother, so that they're a little bit glossier, even though they have the same paint colors on them. And so I want to bring some of that smoothness to some of these other bricks too. Some of them have them a little more than others. And that, you know, when I look at my reference, which I always have on hand, copious amounts of reference, I often see you see a variation in color, variation in texture, and variation in specularity is what we call it in the video game industry. I don't know what... Would it be albedo, maybe? Just like how much light reflects off of the surface. So, to make something smoother like that, it's just a matter of like putting a glossy something, and that could be Mod Podge, you know, more Mod Podge, wood glue, PVA glue. There's a ton of things you can do to accomplish that. I'm trying to think if because I forgot to do it before I did my sludge coat. I don't know if... You know what? This is already going way over, like, over my length schedule that I was planning, so I'm just going to go and do the color variations and not worry about this now. Not every piece has to have the same kind of, you know, variations. Having variation in your variation is also a totally valid thing. Okay, so we've got some quote-unquote yellow, some quote-unquote brown. Just to mix things up, let's call this scarecrow quotes yellow-green, right? No, this is the more like pallid yellow. And then some of our quote-unquote blue. I'll put it up here. And so you can see there's like it feels kind of dramatically different on here. And while we're not going for dramatic difference, we want enough difference. Let's see, all of my good brushes. Here we go, perfect. So I want kind of a squarish shaped brush tip so that I can go up to the edge and corners with these colors. Physicists and astronomers use albedo. Yes, we also use it in the video game industry, referring to a texture. So a prop will have several different files associated with it that determine the way it ends up looking. And those files have changed over the years. When I started in the game industry, it was literally a texture map, and it was just colored pixels that look like an image that get wallpapered over the wall, right? And you can derive that image any way you like. I would often take photographs, go to the place where you get photographs printed, because this was before digital cameras were really a thing. Get them printed out, scan them, and then in Photoshop kind of mess with them, make them tile, and then that would be, there you go, you have a texture. Nowadays, actually let's fast forward 10 years, then we got these fancy things like bump maps, which allowed you to make it look like the light would hit the surface and have more convoluted detail in there. And I know probably a lot of you people know all this stuff, so please don't feel like I'm talking down to you, but it's interesting for the people who don't know. Yeah, bump maps were the thing that you could add all these little pits and cracks and stuff without drawing them into the texture. The light would just hit them and it would look like they have those textures. That was around the PlayStation 2, Xbox One era. If you want to put a date on that, early 2000s. And then throughout the next decade from there, it was like adding more and more things like surface. Let's see. So we had the color channel, the bump map, and then we had height maps, which were like even fancier bump maps, more or less. I'm gonna go with the. No, I feel like I need to get one of these two to make sure this lighter color is represented enough for me to be happy. Not like there's some scientific method to determine the proper amount of different colors. But then the big revolution happened about, oh gosh, it feels like 5 years to me, so I'm going to guess it's actually 10 years ago. No, I'm going to put it at 7 years ago with photorealistic, PBR, photo something rendering? Physics-based rendering. There we go, PBR. And that was, now suddenly you had to make like 5 or 6 different files that go into making the surface of a wall. And one of those files is the word that I brought up and suddenly I can't remember. What was it up there? Oh, Chef Love, you got furloughed on your birthday. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. Albedo, that's what we were talking about. Not libido, albedo. Right, so that's literally just the color information. So rather than painting the shadows on, like, if I was going to make a texture map of this for a video game, in the olden days, I would actually, like, take a photograph of this. I actually did that sometimes. I would sculpt a surface, photograph that, and then scan the photograph in, and, you know, etc. But basically all of the shadows and highlights and all that stuff is baked in more or less because it's part of the image. Well, that is no longer the case. Now it would just be like this color gray with some, you know, some little differentiations in the color, but you would not see the shape of this geometry in there at all. That would all be in a displacement map or a height map. The color needs to be completely separate from those things so that it lights realistically in any kind of lighting environment. So the big downside to having your shadows and lights baked into the texture is that if the light's shining down, it works perfectly. But if you have a light from below pointing up at it, it suddenly doesn't make any sense, or it looks like it's popping, like it's carved in rather than popping out, right? And so yeah, it's just it's been an interesting journey through the technological changes that have happened in the video game art field throughout the years. Okay, so you know, I did 3 lighter. Now I'm gonna do some browns, just using the same brush. Totally happy for these different tints to mix together. Another thing that you'll see often in ruins, like, let's look at this this brick right here. Notice how it's got like a lighter section, dark gray around the edges, like a brownish section up here. So it's totally fine for these colors to not be totally consistent. The thing I try to avoid is like accidentally smearing up onto a rock next to it. Not that you never see that in ruins, but I don't want that all over the place. Because a lot of times the discolorization will come from elements weathering around them and like dripping or blowing onto them, as opposed to the breakdown of the chemicals inside the rock itself. But even so, let's say you've got this rock up here is a little browner, because it has a little more iron in it. And as the iron hits the surface, the moisture in the air causes it to erode, and whenever it rains or water drips over it, it's going to pull some of that staining from the iron down onto the rocks underneath it. And that is totally valid. But it's unlikely that it's going to spread up to the rocks above it, if that makes sense. Oxidize. Thank you for that word. That was not coming to mind. It is not a universal rule, but it is mostly true that if rocks have kind of a reddish, orangish, brownish tone to them, it's because of the iron content inside of them. The more I learned about geology, the more I was shocked to find that professional geologists often struggle to identify specific rocks because at least visually, because there's so many factors that go into the particular chemical composition of them. You can't rely on coloring. You can't rely on surface texture. You can't rely on like any one or two properties of it. You know, weight, brittleness, like all of these things create what Wittgenstein would call a family resemblance as applied to language, but it also works in multiple other fields. So I'm doing a little more brown than I did at the light, just because it's good to keep it mixed up. Alright, let's try some of this guy. Now, you can see there's actually some streaks in the paint here. And again, I'm totally cool with that because I want anomalies in the color. Wait, is this the one I already did? This is the one I already did. What a fool I've been. I should have noticed. But again, working on ruins, it's like, great. Who cares? So what? Who cares? Hey, playing at Crossroads. How's it going? What's up with you today? Cool, Garthor. See you later. Alright, let's do some of our slate blue type color here. Yeah, I'm really liking, I think I actually did a better job this time mixing my, so the logistics of the mixing were not handled well, but the end result of the mixing I think worked out well. I really like how they're different enough to be able to certainly read them apart and see variation in the overall composition, but they're not like sticking out like a sore thumb at this point, which I've made that mistake too many times to recreate it. I may be erring on the side of underplaying the color variation, but given the source material, which is very monochromatic, I'm very happy to err on that side as opposed to making them, you know, overly differentiated. I certainly aimed for the stars to hit the moon on my mixing method here. Let's put it that way. I got to the mun. Hooray. Many brave Kerbals met their unfortunate end in the process, but here we are in the future with a delightful result. Okay, so this is the one that I have not done yet, which I think this is the Old Yeller, is what I was calling this one. Now, in case you're a little OC, not quite D, like I am, you may be really bothered by this little yellow speck that I've just let live there all this time. By the way, I want to point out, I do not have a diagnosis of OCD, and I do not want to make light of those who do have OCD, which is why I describe myself as on the spectrum. I am OC, but not quite D. It is not a debilitating disorder. It's simply a thing that makes me annoyed a lot. And I'm self-diagnosed as somewhere on that spectrum. Also why I wear gloves almost all the time that I work. But yes, I'm purposely leaving these little anomalies in there because, again, back to the reference, you see little anomalies all the time, and they bother me in real life, but as I am trying to reproduce real life, or at least, you know, make reference to it as well as I can, I'm forced to include that kind of thing. Also, by the time I do the dry brushing and stuff, this little yellow dot is going to be so insignificant, you won't notice. I hit all the stars, yes. Yeah, I'd say if art is bothering you, it's probably doing its job. Unless it's bothering you because it's so bad. But even then, it's like, well, then do not engage in said art. It's okay that it's not for you. Please let art exist that is not for you. Even if it's in a franchise or an intellectual property that you love and have loved in the past but don't like the new stuff, that's okay. That stuff doesn't need to be for you either. That is my cultural philosophical rant for the day. You're welcome, everyone. I say that, but I'm still going to complain about the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones, all right? Okay, I think we have a beautiful rainbow coalition of stones in this guy now. I'm going to move on to the second one. And this time I'm going to force myself to do something even more painful than leaving dots behind, which is I'm going to group up several of the same color together. And I'm just going to grit my teeth and bear it because, okay, here, let me show you one of the references that I have that bothers me the most. And I make sure to always include the ones that bother me the most because I need to overcome this issue that I have. But like, if you made this prop in a video game or for a tabletop terrain, wargaming terrain, I would be mad at you and be like, look what you did. Look at the, why is that line of blocks there super dark and but then there's a super light one there. And then everywhere else it's like fairly homogeneous. It just really bothers me. And so I have to be like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make myself do that. because it exists in the real world for a reason. Ideally, I would understand that reason, and I'd be able to, like, lean into it. Actually, to be honest, probably my biggest problem with that sort of thing is because I don't actually understand what's going on there. You know, it could be because, like, there's a brazier with fire that has been burning there, you know, that people use regularly for hundreds of years, and the particular chemical composition of those particular rocks accept the soot, and the soot does not wash off in the rain because of the surface properties of those particular rocks. You know, there could be a million different stories for why it ends up that way. But because I don't know what that story is, it just bothers me. That's true. It could be a dragon attack, but it's like, was the dragon, did he have like laser fire that just shot like one brick high? The pseudopods did it. Yes. Let's go with that. An army of dinoflagellates with pseudopods attacked the stronghold. They were probably flying in like a Space Invaders formation, you know, just all in a straight line, and they all fired their pseudopods off and like slathered the wall with their corrosive slime, just in that row. But one of them in the middle was shot by a brave archer, and that left a gap, which explains why this one is so bright, because the gap in the dinoflagellate Space Invader pseudopod attack didn't hit that brick. It's all making sense now. I have decoded history. Please book my spot on Ancient Aliens. I've already got the crazy hair for it. I should be on Ancient Aliens. Hashtag put Josh on Ancient Aliens. If that show is even still around. If it's not, then bring it back specifically for me. And I will explain the strange surface property characteristics on this castle as being caused by pseudopod dinoflagellate aliens. Let's see, I'm going to go with this one to continue my trend of grouping this color together. I guess really, here's the rule. Here's the rule of thumb. If, in order for randomness to truly be random, there have to be odd groupings that stick out to the eye. Otherwise, it's actually not random. And even if the builders of this building were trying specifically to put colored blocks in a random, you know, they either came from a quarry or they're being repurposed from another structure, or they're field stones, meaning that they're rocks that probably came in from a glacier and were scoured from who knows how many hundreds of miles away. Whatever the story is, however it was built at the time, there's still going to be discrepancies over time as the stones age. Their initial surface properties can change because rocks are not a homogeneous mix. They're usually a swirl of ingredients that are caused, you know, hundreds or thousands, not thousands, hundreds of miles under the crust, and then they slowly are pushed up and emerge. But whatever that mix was, it's very rarely a super homogeneous. For that to happen, they have to be very deeply buried under a lot of heat for the different chemicals to precipitate from each other. So most rocks are a complicated mixture, and as they erode, you know, they're chipped, they're wind beaten by sand, the water carries away the surface, etc. It exposes new chemicals that weren't necessarily there when the stone cutters cut them into place to do their ashlar building. All right. No, I'm gonna make, I don't want to do this one in that color because it seems to be such a fundamentally different, like it's eroding in a different enough way that I feel like it needs to be from either another part of the quarry or a different type of stone altogether. So I don't want it to have exactly the same cast as these other guys. And I'm gonna hit this guy too, just to extra brutalize my soul. It's kind of like, you know, a physical workout needs to be strenuous enough, especially when you're weightlifting. Like, you need to feel it. You need to be in pain to really be, if you want to increase muscle mass, you have to hurt yourself. The same thing with this art here. In order to achieve realism, I have to hurt my soul to get there. But it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger said, get to the chopper! Deliveries from 2 quarries. Yeah, yeah. Exactly. The building methods of old buildings often included a lot of scavenging from old walls, old roads, old buildings that were no longer being kept up. You know, part of the wall would collapse and they would replace things with whatever was laying around. Go down to the river and grab some river stones. Yeah, actually, one of my reference sheets here that actually surprisingly doesn't hurt my soul quite as much. I have one specifically called where's my variety? Carved, stains, colors, mixed. Yeah, so you have situations where this is one of my favorites. You might not be able to see that very clearly, but there's like a big wall and then an arch in brick that has been completely like blocked off and over, and there's like an obvious platform where there used to be either wood or maybe even stone, or yeah, maybe the ground just eroded so much that it fell away, and so they're like, nope, that's no longer an entrance, but they left the arch, they just filled it in with stone. And yeah, and like plaster over random areas, river rocks in some areas, bricks in another, ashlar construction in another. It's madness. History is madness. But that's all what, you know, like everyone has seen enough pictures of ruins that the more you kind of recreate that madness, the more it reads as correct. it becomes environmental storytelling. Color changes in the Washington Monument. I have not heard the story about that. I can make some assumptions about why it's happening, but I'd love to hear about it. Also, mods. I am looking at wrapping up in 5 minutes. So if you want to start lining up a raid and all that good stuff, now would be the time to start that process. I think so. I visited the Washington Monument once, and I'm trying to remember if I learned any factoids about where the stones were procured from. I cannot remember off the top of my head. Yo.
I'm going to hand over to you.
All right.
You know what time it is?
I do. Thanks. Well, thank you, Bug Lips. I hope that I continue to create good and interesting and fun streams in the future. Also, streams with very loud motorcycles driving by. That has always been my goal. Stopped building in 1859, did not resume until after the Civil War. Okay, makes sense. Same quarry was used, but they got deeper into the formation and the stone was different. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, is like a quarry is a like what is that? Well, yeah, back to what I was saying about the stones mixing. Like, it's very rare to have one just like incredibly homogeneous lump of a very specific rock and the same chemical formation throughout the entire lump. Like, um, so those kind of quarries are much more rare, and as a result, the stone from them is more valuable. Um, and yeah, often you're not going to know when you start a quarry. You're like, look, giant chunk of marble. Let's start quarrying this, and then 20 years later, whatever, you get to another point, and it's suddenly it's not the same color or consistency or whatever. What do you know off the top of your head what kind of stone is cladding the Washington Monument? Is it marble? You know, one thing I didn't actually represent in my color variations here is dark, just darker in general. I think I'm going to go in and add some dark bits later. Connecticut or Maine? Alright, so we've been going for an hour and a half. I'm going to go ahead and do my closing spiel, which is you can check me out on my regular Twitch stream at Josh Foreman. You could check out my YouTube channel, also at Josh Foreman, where I do lots of tutorials, a variety of different kind of art, from sculpting to painting to modding, collectibles, all sorts of random stuff. Thank you for the links, Darth Abacus. I've got the Instagrams, the Discord, etc. I've got all the stuff. And I'd love to chat with anyone. We have very positive, open, creative community. I have books for sale on Amazon. You should please go check out my latest book, The Scarred King 2. It's a fantasy adventure. This one continues from The Scarred King 1. It's kind of a road trip across a continent covered in all sorts of exciting peril and danger that our heroes have to go through. In a world that I've been building for over 20 years, and doing a lot of art for it as well. All the books have 70 plus illustrations, maps, all that kind of fun stuff. And I think that's my spiel. So we're ready to raid whenever the mods are ready. I'm gonna do some weird little color variation things. I forgot to be doing that this whole time. I just remembered. Yes, we'll see everyone on Reaper Live. Reaper Love. Reaper Live Love. Thank you. Are we doing a raid? Is that the thing? Am I correctly remembering that is the modus operandi? Or am I just turning myself off? Oh, it's going. Okay, excellent. Oh, I see it up there now. There we go. There we go. Going to see Jimmy the Brush. Excellent. We're doing it. We're doing it live. All right, just ping me when it is time for me to cut my feed, which I assume is, oh, is now? Has the raid actually started? Am I no longer live? Am I dead? Tell me if I'm dead.